Welcome. Welcome to the anniversary party of the Death Chicks. It's the Death Chicks 1-year anniversary, and we are going to have some fun. We've got a really cool format for you today, and we've got some others who are joining the party, and you may notice that the guests we have today have been guests on our show before, and we've invited them back to answer the big questions about death. It's not just us and one guest. It's everybody weighing in about death. But we want to answer these questions in an alive, kind of connected, sort of party way. We understand that they're important questions, and we want to get the perspective because this really is a show about perspectives. So I am going to turn it over to you, Misty, so that you can tell us what we're going to be doing today and get started with all these introductions and these great questions. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody, and also to our wonderful panelists. We can't thank you enough. Yay! It's a 1-year anniversary today. Can you believe it?
Yay! We get to do this one time a year. One time a year we have this full house. It's amazing. We love it. We love that we've been here for a year. We have a show about death. It's not very sexy. People aren't running and saying, I want to see that show. That's going to be fun. But this show is going to be fun. And if you've been to our other shows, we have fun and we do a deep dive and we touch hearts. And it really amazes me what we do, and it amazes me that we're still here doing it. So to get into the spirit of this birthday party, we're going to sing the birthday party song, okay?
Hey, and Julie just popped in too. It is a party. Look at people. People are coming every minute. All right. Happy
One, two, three, birthday.
2,
1, 2, 3. I think the time lag is doing it. Okay, everyone just start singing. We'll catch on. Is this
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Death Chicks. To you. And many more.
Oh, thanks. That was kind of terrible.
In the best way.
God forbid that we should be left singing alone.
That's right. Terrible but beautiful. So welcome, everybody. All right. Misty, go ahead and tell us what we're doing today, just so we can figure this thing out.
Okay, we have a crazy amount of people on, and so we're going to keep it nice and tight. We're going to do introductions. Everyone's going to introduce themselves. They're going to go in the order of the film strip, which we discovered is not the same for everyone, so we will cue you. I'll read it off. It'll be Velin, Rachel, oh, I can't read my own writing.
Julie. That's Julie next.
Well, Julie will be at the end, because she came in last.
Okay.
Oh, Margarita, Loanne, Kim, Josie, Daniela, and Julie. So that will be the order, and then we'll jump into our questions. We have 3 big questions, and each panelist will have 1 minute to answer those, and then we'll do our parting words and our goodbyes. And we're really looking forward to these questions because this is about overcoming the fear of death, and we know each of you has done this. Each of you has overcome this fear, and that's why we're here, and we can celebrate and we can smile when we talk about it. We know it's okay. So, introductions. We're starting with Velin. Please introduce yourself. We're asking you to use your death bio. So not all of our guests are working in the field, but they are here because they've had a strong personal experience with death. And they, it's drawn them to be here and to be speaking out about it. So go ahead, Velin.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to come back and be with you ladies today. I'm so excited about it because this is a subject that's very important to me. I am Velin, the Money Girl Hawkins. I'm an entrepreneur on a mission to help increase the number of wildly successful women-owned entrepreneurial ventures across the globe. And as CEO, Dean, and founder of the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship, a 360 Unite certified business acceleration coach, a certified joint venture broker, and the Dean of the School of Social Entrepreneurship at Directions U, I help entrepreneurs build rapid, sustainable business through a holistic framework of heart and flow, and that's money flow. Helping entrepreneurs with their business growth strategy to earn more and help them to help their chosen cause in the process. That's my passion. And I often say, and you might catch me saying, I want you to earn more so that you can do more good in the world, so that you can live the legacy that you desire to leave. You see, I believe that living the legacy of love that my son left for me when he passed away, which was very sudden and was the second blow in my life, one of the most devastating events that anyone can experience. I really believe that that's when I began to live. When I began to live in and on purpose. So thank you. I'm so excited to be here today.
Thank you, Veland. So much more to that for sure. And Rachel, how about you?
Hi, so I'm Rachel Archelaus, and my first brush with death really was when my grandpa started showing up after he passed away. So I learned that I was a medium really young. I was in middle school, and we would just have these amazing conversations. And I got to learn that there's really not a big difference, in my experience anyway, between someone who's alive and someone who's not. And I think, you know, I later went on to work as a medium, and now what I do is I help people talk to their loved ones through the method of intuitive art, which is a really gentle, kind of safe feeling way to communicate with your loved ones. If you want to check that out, you can go to intuitiveartacademy.com for a free class. So thanks.
Brilliant. Very exciting stuff. And Marguerite with the hearts on her head.
Yes, hello. I'm Margarita Crystal Lotus, and I'm an intuitive healer. And I lost the fear of death when I was in the early teens, when I had experience underwater. So I don't believe really that we can die. The body can die, but we don't die. So that's the good news. And I do my best to help stressed professional women get back their joy and their inspirations in life. And my website is thecrystallotus.com. So I am so actually very honored for being invited for this show because I really respect Misty and her partner to do this work, and I am really thinking that this is the biggest birthday present you can have, to have so much people in the room, and blessings to you.
So true, Margarita. Not a better blessing in the world than to have all these people gather around. Loanne, how about you with the halo?
I had to have the halo because I understand angels treat themselves lightly, and this is a light show, right? A show of joy and a show of perhaps what's waiting for us on the other side, the party. I come from New Jersey. I'm an author of Celestial Conversations, and I have written that based on my own experience losing my daughter and my mother, and the wonderful experience of finding out that death is not the end. It's only the beginning of another chapter in our lives, and that has been very exciting for me to learn. And I learned from the transpersonal journaling that I did and now teach. It's a very exciting time, I think, for all of us to be alive and helping people understand that death is not the end. That death has so many wonderful gifts wrapped in sometimes dark paper, but in the middle of it is golden light. And the joy is one of those things that you're sharing with everyone tonight. So I really look forward to this conversation and getting to know some of the people that are on the panel that I do not know. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Wonderful, Loanne. It's so good to have you, and all of these different aspects that we're going to be covering with each of you. And Kim, with that crazy Zeus hat, Kim Adams.
Thank you. Yes, just to echo what's already been said, this is just such an honor to be here and celebrate. What a wonderful milestone, your first first anniversary and happy birthday to the Death Chick. So I'm happy to be here as well. So I'm Kim Adams. I'm a certified professional life coach and with a specialty in end-of-life care. I am a hospice volunteer and I am a end-of-life guide and educator. So I work to support individuals around advanced care planning, regardless of age or health status. I do group work as well as individual, and I also, similar to Misty and Patty, have a monthly webinar series with various topics around death and dying and end of life and grief and loss with a guest on each month. To continue as they are to open the door here to this conversation and to demystify death and dying. So happy to be here as well and eager to meet some of the other folks that I'm not familiar with. Potential guests from my show as well. So thank you.
That's right. That's right. Everybody seems willing and very eager to enter into the conversation. And Josie, our youngest at heart member of the panel. Josie James, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm known as the Life Strengths Detective, and the reason for that is I help folks to discover their inner strengths so that they can live the life that they love using the talents that they're born with. And essentially what I'm doing is helping people to do what Stephen Covey says in his book, starting with the end in mind and going backwards and looking at how you live your life is how you will die. And when you die with thoughts of regret, then it's not a very happy time. So what I'm trying to do is help people to understand that their God-given inner strengths are what they're here to do, and that's their ultimate life purpose. And when that is fulfilled, we're living in our last days, then that we'll have that peace and joy of knowing that we're leaving our legacy in a spirit of joy, and that's not dying. That's really leaving your spirit with the ones that you love. And as she said, I'm in my 89th year, and so that that is why I feel that I can really be of assistance to people that are so much younger than I, so that they can start now and looking with that in mind.
Beautiful. And that's what you have to look forward to is a tiara
Of course.
at 89, almost 90. We need another birthday party celebration for you too, Josie.
Thank
and
you.
Daniela, tell us about what you're up to these days and what you're here for and what you do.
So hi everybody, I'm Daniela Norris and I'm near Geneva, Switzerland, hence the background that I chose. I am a former diplomat and political writer, and I consider myself a very, very grounded person. However, 5 years ago, following the death of my brother, I've discovered that the big picture is not necessarily in politics and international relations. I've started writing about contact with the other side, about the afterlife, through nonfiction and through fiction, and the first novel coming out tomorrow about the role of strangers in our life.
Wonderful. Daniela, that's great. You'll have to tell us about the name of the novel and a little bit more about that. Wonderful. And Julie, our honorary death chick, who has been such a cheerleader for us from the very, very start. Say hello, Julie, and join us and tell us what you're up to.
Well, I'm up to no good. No, I'm up to lots of things these days, and let's see, how I got started in this conversation with the Death Chicks had to do with originally with a book that I published, which was a memoir about my own experience being with my father when he passed away. It's called Daddy, This Is It, Being with My Dying Dad. And out of that experience of writing and sharing that book with grief and bereavement professionals, hospice workers, and lots of other folks, I connected with someone who is now my co-author in a book that we're compiling, Her name is Victoria Brewster, and she's a social worker. By the way, I'm a writer, editor, and lifelong educator. And anyway, back to our project. We're still putting this together. We're gathering many varied and sometimes unusual perspectives on death, dying, and end of life. Many of the perspectives we have come from various different support workers, and it's just getting to be quite an amazing collection. We didn't publish it as quickly as we thought we might, but I'm happy that we didn't, because in the interim we have connected with more people that wanted to contribute that are very valuable to the overall project. I'm currently working on some very exciting projects. One of those is with the Death Chicks, and we'll unveil that in the near future. But I won't go into that too deeply right now. But I am an advocate for quality of life at the end of life. I had a wonderful experience being with my father when he passed and in the weeks leading up to that. And it was quite a transformative event for me to be there, to write about that, and even more so to share what that was like, share this little grief memoir with people who are receptive to reading it. And by doing so, to have really connected to a great community, worldwide community, that are, as each of you are, working on bringing this conversation about death, dying, and end of life to the fore and out of the closet, and lightening up the topic when appropriate. And that's it. That's who I am.
Wonderful. Wonderful,
Thank
Julie.
you.
And I've read Julie's book. It is beautiful. She's a terrific writer, and you can really get the sense of what she went through with her father. And I think what we're doing well here today with all of this death gathered here, I don't think the rest of the world has to worry about death for the next hour. Everybody's going to probably stay alive because we're all here connected and talking. So we talked about the big questions, and one of the biggest, and one of the reasons that you all are here and speaking out about your own personal experiences, and I love to hear that it wasn't what you thought when you had those experiences. And that question is for each one of you, and we'll go through again. That question is, why do we fear death? Why, when we know we're born and we're going to die, the only inevitability that we really understand will happen without fail, why do we fear death? And perhaps, Velin, perhaps you can start us off. I know you've got lots of wisdom on this subject.
Thanks, Patty. You know, it brings to mind the answer to that question, why do we fear death? It's because we've been conditioned so. From the time that we're young, if somebody passes in our family, typically all of the crying in the morning that's done, it is interpreted by our young sponge brains as something that maybe we don't want to do, maybe it's something to fear. And then we're taught that it's something to fear. We're taught that it's something horrible. We were singing the birthday song, and it was terrible but beautiful. And you hear the terrible part, but how often do we also hear the beautiful part? And I know for me, my experience actually started as a result of my dad passing at the age of 7. I was 7, he was 29, and every 9th year that came around for me, I was in total fear, I mean paralyzing fear, that it was my time to go. No one could tell me anything differently, and I honestly don't know that there was anyone who knew differently to be able to recognize it and help me through that process. It was because of several things that I reached out into to understand myself, and that thought arose from out of me that was in fact a deep-seated fear that allowed me to be able to release it. And I have to tell you, I carried it for a lot of decades before it really came to me that it was okay to release it. And then right after that release which really wasn't that long ago. I'm almost 62 years old. That actually happened at my 55th birthday when I said I was just going to live a different kind of life, not being afraid of the biggest thing, dying, but even more than that, to live life and then a few years later have my son snatched. What felt like being snatched away from me. He died instantly in an accident. And I mean, it's something when you can spend time with a loved one and say goodbye. It's another when they're just gone. And going through that, I realized, what is there to fear? It is inevitable. We are all going to say goodbye one day. And how we do that is based on how we're living now. And that's why I teach legacy. That's why legacy in business for business owners is so important, because there are many of us, most of us have that fear.
Absolutely, we do, and we want to find out from each of you why you think that is the case. Thank you, Velin. Rachel, what do you think? Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Velin.
So, it's interesting because I grew up without a fear of death just because I got to see it for what it was. It's just a transition. And I think one of the biggest reasons beyond conditioning, which I absolutely agree with, is that we're not connected to what's on the other side of death in this culture. There are a lot of cultures on Earth that do have a close communication with those after they've passed, and they're not afraid of death. So I think in this world we kind of shut off from what's not scientifically in the mainstream, and when we get there, once it's proven that we exist beyond death, I think we'll have a different experience. But for the most part, I think it's really just that there's that doubt that will go on. I have a friend who's afraid of death, and it's mostly just because she doesn't know what's on the other side. So I think that's pretty big.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant insight. Thanks. Margarita, how about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we have talked about the attachment we have to people and things and all those items in this life. I think that the lifetime we have now, that's just a curriculum, a school, a program we're on to learn things. And then after that, we can go to another program or school somewhere else. And when you started in the first grade, how many people do you know from your first graders? And then you go to, the college, whatever, or possibly other courses in the university, and then you meet new people. And I think that to give that story about that is like, that's like life. I've experienced several different lifetimes for myself. I can't prove anything, but it's my experience, my personal experience, and like Rachel here, who was born from there right away, I think, and maintain that awareness of sort of the other side. I think there is millions of other sides. There is numerous opportunities to explore and just develop your soul that goes between those levels. And we can have guides there and connect with them. You get more confident. This is what I share with my clients, that, okay, ask your higher self, I call it higher self, to not involve too much religious belief. And most of my clients resonate very, very well with that in the process of removing fear, because this is what it is. This lifetime is the learning to remove the fears we have on each of the chakra levels. And the death of fear is in the root chakra, right? It's in the basic construction of the basic existence on this planet, in the body, in the physical body. I mean, if you reach some way up to the crown chakra or the heart chakra, I think all of you are probably in the heart chakra here because there's so much care and the atmosphere here is so lovely. So if we can be in our loving state, I can express it like that, then it doesn't matter if we die or we live, because we do live past that experience. This is what I have to say about that.
That's lovely. That's lovely. And it sounds like what you're saying is that sometimes we carry this in our bodies as well. Loanne, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with everything that everyone said, but one of my experiences, which came from understanding that the human condition is afraid of anything they don't know. And a lot of us across the planet have so many unknowns in our lives. I was born in wartime, and there were so many unknowns at that time, a lot of fear in those days of World War II. There's also the fear that sometimes comes from your conditioning in religion. I happen to be Catholic, and there was a lot of fear-based teaching in my religion. So my understanding now has come from the drama of losing my mother and witnessing how beautiful it was in her passing, and then losing our daughter, which was not beautiful to me at all, but having the transpersonal journaling come and having them tell me what was going on and why that happened and how much love there was on the other side, which quite frankly I never thought about. I have 6 kids and a life, and today was fine. You know, I wasn't really interested in the other side at that point in time. But now that I realize that we are moving towards something instead of bracing for something, I realize that this is a time in the world where we need to talk about as we mentioned before, we need to talk about it, because the fear comes from thinking you're the only one. Nobody could suffer the loss of a child like me. No one could go through this loss of a military person like me. And then you find out that half the world's going through that. Reminds me when I was pregnant for the first time. I found out that half the world was pregnant. Who knew? You know? So I think part of what the learning process for me, which has been really beautiful through the help of my transpersonal journaling, is that there is so much love on the other side. We have so much to enjoy as we go through that the fear just is the door that we have to open and just walk through, and we will see that life is like that. We have a life, we walk through the door, and we move to another life, a different kind of life. And that, for me, has been very freeing, and it's wonderful to share with others who are interested in experimenting with the fact that the person they lost perhaps didn't finish their business, didn't finish saying goodbye, didn't get to say goodbye like I didn't get to say goodbye, but it's okay, because the love that we have and the spirit that we have really doesn't need a body. It needs more love. And I think that's what we are doing now. We're putting out love to other people, saying there are hundreds of ways that you can reach through the veil. And if you want to, you can. And that's part of this wonderful chat that you set up, Mr. Young. We need more of these conversations, because so many people are afraid or hunkering down and don't know who to ask or what to do. So I feel very honored to be a part of this group, as everyone does. And I thank you so much for opening the door to this conversation.
Oh, wonderful, Lauren. So beautifully put, and I love how you say how freeing it has been for you.
Yes.
Beautiful. Hey, Kim.
Hey, so
what are your
thoughts?
What are you
This is
thinking?
great.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, you know, just picking up where Loanne just kind of left off, I think that one of the biggest fears is because so many people think that there isn't something more, that, you know, that death, we've been taught in our culture, as Velan said in the beginning, you know, to be seen as the great finality, right? And so if people don't have a sense that there's anything more, which hopefully through all our conversations and the work that we're doing, to help people see in whatever that looks like, in whatever language and whatever culture and whatever sense for them, that they can grasp that there's something more, that the soul goes on, that the body just, you know, dies in this lifetime. But so many people think this is just like the great finality, and, you know, the big fear of any type of change. I mean, the reality is that nobody has come back after an extended period of time on the other side, you know, years later and said, hey guys, it's great over here, come on over. I mean, you know, we've had, you know, near-death experiences and things like that, but no one has really been gone for a while and come back and said, hey, it's great over here. So I think that coupled with the culture that we live in, which is a culture of beauty, a culture of youth, death and dying and aging, they don't really have a place in that, so to speak, because we're bombarded with those types of messages and images that, to grow older or to age or to, end of life and dying, really, we don't see that. So I think that, our culture plays a huge piece in that as well. So those would be my two additions.
Lovely, lovely. Very good additions, too, and really neat perspectives for sure. And Josie.
Well, I too, like some of the others have said, feel like that the reason why we fear death is because it's the unknown. And it's kind of like Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And yet, we know that whatever's in that box of chocolates is sweet. And you're going to love whichever piece you choose. So to really help people to understand that transition is peaceful and sweet. And that is something that's something to look forward to rather than something to fear. And just understanding that this is not a hush-hush subject. We face it all through our life of seeing others die. And I too, like I believe it was Luann, I was born during that time of war. I was a teenager. Lost many of my high school friends because they took the boys pretty quickly, and they were gone pretty quickly. And that was a time of fear for us because we didn't understand. We thought that they were still lying in the field dead. So it's that unknown thing. It's not a something that we look at it as how can we avoid it? It's how can we embrace it? That is the key.
We're having a little bit of trouble with your audio, Josie. I don't know if anybody else is picking that up, but just want to make sure that you're close enough to your microphone when you do talk.
I wasn't sitting up maybe close enough.
Okay, well you're doing fine now, but no, we totally got the gist of what you were saying. Thank you so much about the unknown. And Daniela over there in Switzerland, I love that we're multinational here and multi-country.
Well, people have said so many amazing, interesting, and true things that I don't know that I can add much. But the way I see the big picture today is that we're all here on a journey of learning. And your journey is not my journey, and it's not Luann's journey, and so on. Each one has a different journey. Now, if we remember that death is not the end, we wouldn't be taking it seriously, would we? So, I think it's all part of the plan. Fearing death actually ups the stakes, and had we known that it's only one act in a multi-act show, we wouldn't have tried so hard. And perhaps we would have done many things differently. But this forgetfulness that we get when we are born, when we arrive here, and then we remember when we go back, I truly don't think it's a coincidence, and it's something that some people perhaps manage to go through and then suddenly remember, or are in a spiritual journey and learn how to cross the veil. To some people it comes naturally, other people have to work hard for it. But as humans, I think the gift of forgetfulness actually allows us to explore our life journeys and to do our best to then progress and go to the other side and perhaps come in and do it all again.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you very much, everyone. That was really fabulous.
We need to get Julie in still.
Oh, Julie, that's right. You jumped in last.
That's right.
Okay, here I am getting ahead of myself. I'm watching my phone slip, and Daniela's on the end, so my little brain went, okay, we're at the end. It's Misty's turn now. All right, here we go, Jules. Over to you, Chickie.
Okay. That's okay. First of all, I just want to say everybody's bringing such great insights, and I'm going like this, agreeing with each one of you. I feel resonance with the thread of fear, generally being fear of the unknown in almost any aspect of life, and dying is part of life. You know, that the act of dying is still part of living. In my mind, I had a very unique experience, and it wasn't anything I could have imagined I would have. About 4 days after my dad passed, I had what I call a gift, a visit in a dream, a very, very vivid dream, where he came to me as a light body, as his light body, and I assumed my own, and together we explored the universe. We went into infinitesimally small spaces and as large could be spaces. We could be anything, anywhere, anytime. And it was an amazing, amazing journey. I awoke because the joy, the intensity of the joy that I felt, I thought I was going to explode. I was going to die of joy had I not awakened. That's what it was like. And I don't know where this came from. I'd never considered anything like that before. It was so amazing. And it's not that I had a conscious fear of death. I mean, I'm like anybody else. If I sense that I'm going to fall off the curb in front of a bus, I preserve my my human life as best I can. But I do believe that having had that adventure in my dream, my very vivid dream or vision, whatever it was, has brought me greater peace about death. And for a while, one of the hardest things for me was to keep my feet on the ground in this dimension and be okay with that, because I felt left behind. I knew what my dad was up to. He's having the best time ever. And here I was having a good time. It's not like I don't enjoy being human Julie here on planet Earth. I do. I enjoy that very much. But I kind of felt left behind because I felt that I got a taste of what that would be. And then, you know, I'm okay with waiting for that. I can wait a long time to go there again. But I felt that I got a sampling of that, and fear. You know, I'm not afraid of being dead. I'm not afraid of dying. I do have some fears around what might come before that in the ways of compromised living. So that's a whole different topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, everyone. It's really great to have such a variety of insight, but as was mentioned, there's some real common threads, and I think the more people we talk to, we'll see the commonalities. And although death is uniquely experienced by each individual, and that's something that we can treasure, that there is the commonalities, and we can, as a society, get to a place where we no longer fear death. And of course, you know, that's the mission that Patty and I are on. We're going to jump into our next question, and I'm going to remind everyone we really want to keep the show to an hour. It looks like we might be going over, but I'm going to ask that you keep your answer to a minute. I may even make a little like time signal. And yeah, okay, here we go. Deep breath. The question next is, why is it important to overcome the fear of death? Or what are the benefits of overcoming the fear of death? So now that we're there, and some of you may have touched on this, but what will we see? Why should people and viewers look at death and consider embracing it, and consider, I like to say, inviting it to say, come sit on my lap and let's have a chat. and I want to get to know you, and I want to become comfortable with you. So what are the benefits of doing this? And we'll continue in our lineup with starting with Zealand. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. I love the question because it is a question that opens us up to more expansive thinking. And that just doesn't happen when you think about how it is that we grew up, what it was that we were conditioned to believe. And I really appreciate the fact that to invite death to come and visit with me, it's not something that I would have thought that I could do, much less could benefit from doing. And I think that that's something that, you know, as we are bringing this conversation more into the forefront for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, for our global communities, it is something that we can talk about, because I think that's the bridge. That's the bridge of the gap between the fear that we have in this present, you know, what does it look like now, versus knowing or not knowing what's on the other side and being okay with that. And I love the fact of using that conversation to be something to bridge the gap, because it does invite the expansiveness of thought.
My microphone is saying, go ahead, Rachel.
Awesome question. So I definitely think that the fear of death is just another limitation that we put on ourselves to keep us from living the life that we really want to live. And so if you're not afraid of death, you're much more likely to take chances and take risks and step out of your comfort zone, because really what's keeping you in your comfort zone is a fear of dying if you step outside of it. So there's so much to be had by exploring that and really sitting with it and asking yourself, what am I really afraid of? Like for me, obviously, I'm afraid of pain. I'm afraid of losing my family. I'm afraid of a lot of that stuff. But examining that for yourself will help you live a bigger life and do things that you never thought you were capable of doing. So that's my advice.
Great advice.
Thanks, Rachel. And Margarita.
Yeah, this is such a vital question. Why should we get rid of fear in general? Because if you have a fear that puts you in a state of negative thoughts, feelings, and physical conditions, many conditions and illnesses are created due to that we have that fear in the body. And so I think the question is more, why should we remove our fears? Any fear. It's because if you have fears, you're going to be miserable. If you don't have fear, you're going to be really happy and enjoy your life and fulfill your mission and inspire other people and all of this stuff. That's my answer.
Thank you. Next we have Loanne.
I hope you can hear me. I'm playing with this mute thing, and I'm a non-techie, but
Good.
good. I think it has a lot to do with control. I think those of us who are, like myself, a Leo, loves to control, wants to know the outcome, wants to know what is necessary to get from point A to point B. If you're looking at your own fear of death, which I have had, my fear of death was, at one time, was how I was going to be judged by the other side. And now that I don't have that anymore, that seems to have opened the door for me to know that love exists on the other side, and I'm so much more open to the possibility of moving forward, and can't wait to experience some of the things that my mother and my daughter have shared with me in the journaling that I have done. But I think this we live in a world of everyone trying to control everything, whether it's education or religion or depending on money. It doesn't really matter what. That it's inevitable that we may find that we want to control what we think about the unknown. And so if we make up something that is fearful, it makes it harder. My mother, I can remember distinctly, shook like a leaf for the last couple of years of her life, not from Parkinson's, but from terror of meeting the judgmental God that, thank goodness, I don't believe in. So we have reasons to become what we are, but we now have conversations that give us the possibility, the glimpse that maybe we were wrong. Maybe it's a wonderful thing to know more about death. And that's where I am right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. And next up is Kim.
Great. This is really a wonderful question, and I think it's a question that I encourage my clients to answer for themselves. And one of the pieces for me is that, you know, why it's important or the benefits about talking about death and inviting it, as you say, kind of to join us on our lap and have a conversation, which I just love that, is I see it as a real motivator. You know, it really motivates us in living well now. And what does that mean? Because I tell people, or I invite people to consider that how we live now is how we're going to die. So taking a look at now, what are your beliefs? What are your values? What's important to you now? So being able to kind of do that, and I see it as it's a motivator to help us live well now. I love what Belin said about the bridge, you know, and I think that for me is just really a great perspective. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for that. But again, I just see it as an opportunity for motivation.
Thanks,
And next
Kim.
we have, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Josie.
Well, I think I'd said before that, you know, to embrace that wonderful transition, to look at that as a move over into another way of living in death, because I do believe that we do live, that our spirit is still alive. Yes, we've lost our wrappings, but we still have that gift that's inside us that is still giving life to other people with what we have left. And to be thinking about that as we travel through this time of breathing, that we are breathing life into the next follow-up, as well as our just regular keeping our body healing. So thinking about that, and what I think about is I not only want to live the length of my life, I want to live the best of it with it. So how much of the time we're thinking about how long will I live.
Josie, can you sit closer to your microphone a little bit? Just a reminder.
I realized I didn't have my microphone on before, but now I do, so I don't know why.
Okay, but when you sit up, it sounds great. I just wanted to let you know.
I was just so relaxed. I was just
Yeah.
having a nice conversation with you guys, and I'm sitting back in my chair here. So yeah, so just thinking about living that width of it, to know that we are bigger than our bodies, that life and so much more than just these bodies, that we try to make it look the best. And our society is to me so strange in the way that we look at death and how we prepare the body with all the finery that maybe, you know, maybe I've been to funerals where they had more than 3 or 4 rings on them. You know, you're going with all this finery. And I even thought at one time, you'll think this is funny, well, went through years of wearing false eyelashes. And it was so important to me that I asked my niece, if I die before you, will you be sure you put my false lashes on? And so that's how really that we can get so unreal about death and what these bodies mean to us. and how we're so afraid to leave them. Well, I'll tell you, I'll be glad to leave mine because I've had fibromyalgia for over 30 years. I will not have that anymore. Isn't that a great thing to look for? We'll not have any pain anymore.
Nice. Thanks, Josie. And thanks, Patty, for reminding her to lean in. Actually, if you have earbuds, sometimes that helps too. So if you're not talking and want to scoot off for a minute and get some earbuds, that might help with sound quality.
Okay.
I'm not mentioning that before. Go ahead, Daniela.
Fear of death. I think overcoming fears is part of our journey of learning. A child, a baby, is not born with fear of death. A 1-year-old would crawl off a mountain if you let them. So we're born and we're not afraid of death, and then we learn to be afraid of death, and then if we want to, we can unlearn it. So it's really part of our, as I can see it, it's part of our learning process, of our development. Now, if our fears block us, then yes, we should definitely overcome them, but I don't think that it's right for everybody to overcome fears of death. Otherwise, people would do all sorts of crazy things. So it is something that we all feel, even if I believe in the afterlife, even if I have proof that there's an afterlife, something in me still has that fear because it's a survival mechanism, isn't it? I'll keep it to that.
Thank you. That's nice comments. Good to leave our viewers with some questions. So next up is Julie.
Thank you. Wow. I don't know how much I can add to the wonderful things everyone's already said. I agree with everybody's comments. And I think peace is the main value in my mind for overcoming fears, or for and not to, like I said, not want to protect yourself against stepping in front of the bus or falling off the top of the mountain. I've been to the top of a couple mountains, and the one that looked quite precipitous, I was a little bit scared up there, I must say, and that was okay. But I also found a way to be at peace and to trust that the mountain was going to support me. I wasn't going to fly off of it, and pretty soon I was going to be able to hike back down again. And I wasn't as brave as my friend who was asleep next to me on the top of the mountain taking her little nap. I was more scared than that. But that's a different kind of fear from what we're talking about. I think being able to be at peace and to maybe help our loved ones be at peace would be one of the biggest values of not fearing death. If I could do that, if I could turn to my loved ones and assure them that I'm not afraid of what's next, I think that will help them. And they're the ones that are going to have to live with my death. Thank you.
And we don't want that too soon, for sure, for any of us. Any of us. So we're not going to make that so, because we're all connected and nobody's dying in this hour anywhere. Thanks so much, you all. I tell you, it's amazing to have these perspectives, these insights, and you know, I wonder, people spend more time planning for what kind of car they're going to get than they do for how they would like to die, if we have any kind of control. And I know we don't have the ultimate control, but I know, for example, in Kim's work, there is planning and there's lots to be done. And when we do that planning, we have to take a look. So we talked about why people might want to consider looking at death and overcoming this fear. And now the last question that we're going to wrap up with and take us all out on is the how-to part. You know, I think that's all of us as entrepreneurs and folks who want to share with the world the way to make your life better. If we've talked about the general consensus is if we look at death, we can make living better and we can be more fully alive. So how do we do that? I always like to know the how-to in the toolbox. So Velin, tell us what you think. How can we do it?
Wow, what a great question to wrap up with. I'm so excited to chime in on this because not everybody even thinks in this vein, much less will ask that kind of question. And when I think about it, for me, and for the conversations that I know that I am in and or initiating on this subject, I like to go to the imagine space. Imagine this, imagine that, especially as I'm motivating and inspiring women entrepreneurs to do big business. It's like, can I really do that? Well, imagine what might be if you do. Imagine what might be on the other side if you've heard that it's a place of no pain, no fear, streets of gold, and the rolling green hills and the trees and the waterfalls and the brooks and all of the things that in this life your heart can desire. And then knowing that on the other side is an opportunity to help by being an angel and intervening for others, for those that you love, communicating with those that you love, because it has come to become more well-known, well-respected, an idea that there are those on the other side who do pierce the veil and come and speak and commune and hug us and hold us and, dry a tear or just whisper in our ear the love that we want to have, the love that we know is there. That's the connection. And so, it takes me back to one last comment, and that is to be in the imagine, the expansiveness of imagine. There's a verse that I quote quite often that, we have been put here in this earthly form with the knowledge that there are possibilities that we can think of, and then there are some that are beyond what we could ever ask or think. And that is the expansiveness and the conversation over the bridge that I like to be in. So thank you, ladies.
Absolutely. Expansiveness. How wonderful. And Rachel, how about you, love?
Well, I really love using intuitive art to help me connect to other realms and my loved ones. And so it's simple too. It probably sounds like really intimidating, but here's an example of one of the drawings. So it's just scribbles. It's like you don't have to be an artist to do it. And it just helps you go above that mind barrier that we all seem to have, and helps you go into, these other dimensions that our loved ones are in or that our higher self lives in, and pull down that information so that you can read it and you can have that language beyond the unseen world. So you can check it out, intuitiveartacademy.com, for a totally free class, and see if it makes a difference for you.
So lovely. I know I've been to your site and to your class. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Lots of information. Marguerite.
Yes. Margarita, yeah. I agree so much with Rachel and Velin also. The first step, I think, in the journey of releasing fear at all is to actually acknowledge that you have them. If many people say that they're scared, but they don't acknowledge for themselves that they have fear. They think they're invincible, and then they blame other people of why they feel that way, and then they don't take responsibility for their own fears and what they initiate based on the belief they have and the behavior they have. They think that everybody is, they might feel like a victim, and then they blame everyone else for it. And that is a very miserable state to be in. So if the first step, I think, is to actually acknowledge that we have fear inside. And then when we do that, then we can approach it. We can approach it with, visualization, meditation, beautiful art. I also have a course called the Instant Drawing course that's coming soon, and that is relaxing and inspiring. And when you are in that inspired mode, then this is the only way you can actually address what's happening to you, because you're coming up and above and look down on yourself from a higher perspective, and that's what I want for everyone to experience. So thank you for having me here on your show, and happy birthday.
Wonderful. And Loanne. Oh, Loanne, I think you're muted.
Right now.
Loanne.
Are we
There
okay?
you go. Now we're good. Thanks.
All right. I want to thank you, too, for being a part of this, because I really think that the ways people can overcome their fears is a little like finding your own music. You have to find the music that speaks to you. And there are certain, as you move along the path, at least it has been for me, there are different things that you need at different times. Grief and the healing of grief, it seems to me, needs is a path. It's a process. My particular way is transpersonal journaling, especially for people who have unfinished business with those who have passed, as was my case. And they need, the fear is, what if they knew, or what if I had said, or the woulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda, that sort of thing. And once they can let go of that, as I did with my mom particularly, I find that it's easier to imagine. It's easier to move to the next step, and then the next step comes along. So I love doing the retreats and the workshops and meeting people that like to write and use my particular screwdriver as a what would you call it, a piece in the healing kit for them. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
My hope was that as I learned myself, it's the whole idea of it is to teach and to learn. And as we teach, we learn ourselves, and as we learn, we move to the next teacher or the next kit or the next opportunity or the next choice that we make as we move further on in our journey. And the more we learn, the more we set an example for the people around us, including our children and our grandchildren. And I think that's the way the world is going to find healing of fear in general. Thank you so much for letting me
You're
be.
so welcome. Wonderful. Kim, what would you like to share with us about how-to?
How-tos. I love what Wayne just said, that I really feel that each of us are a teacher and a student, so being able to learn and teach from one another. And I think one of the how-tos is exactly what you and Misty do each month. The opportunities to have dialogue, the opportunities to be able to expose people and share with folks and give them an opportunity to really kind of begin to talk about this. I know I've heard a lot that, people do not want to talk about death and dying. And what my experience has been is that actually people do want to. They may not know how, they may not have a safe space, they may not know who to turn to. So if we can begin to normalize these conversations, and provide the space, just hold space to ask questions, ask people what they're afraid of, begin to engage in dialogue so that we begin to shine light into areas that are dark. And we know if we shine light in, power is taken away from what we fear. So I see that as a kind of a first step of providing the forums and the opportunities and the engagement and conversations for people to be able to share. So holding space is really important for me, to just be able to allow people to just explore and discover and see what's there. So, yeah, that's what I would add.
I love that.
Thank you, Kim. And I'm just going to jump in for a minute, Patty. I've noticed that some of our guests have already kind of shared their parting words in their websites. So, Kim, I think just to speed things up a bit, if you'd like to share how we can get a hold of you, and then each guest from here on in can share that, and then once we've been through our panelists, if anyone has missed out, we'll give you another chance. So go ahead, Kim. Tell us a little bit more about where people can get in touch with you.
Sure, great, thanks. So my website is www.yourendoflifeguide.com, And certainly people can email me at kim@yourendoflifeguide.com. Be happy to answer any questions and support folks however I can. I have a monthly webinar series, like I mentioned, so you can find all that out on my website. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kim. And Josie, what about you for how to overcome fear of death?
Well, I think overcoming death is what I'd like to help people. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. I think I might have not had my microphone on before. I think I was muted even. I'd like to help people to understand that discovering their talents and gifts and expressing them through their life is how I'd like to be remembered, and I'd like to help others to be able to follow their own unique way of expressing their talents and gifts, and for the love and the good of others. And that love, I think, can go on into your last days of your life when you're looking back on it and you're not having regrets of I could have, should have, like someone else mentioned. All the things that we go to bed at night worrying about that you didn't do, perhaps, that you will feel fulfilled. And so that's my mission in life, and that's what I'd like to be able to remember it as, is someone that really helped to instill that belief in each of us that have those unique talents. And my website is josiejames.com, and what I teach is discovering the best of you.
Wonderful. It's a very good mission. And Daniela, how would you help us?
Well, for me, for us, the how-to is how to help people overcome grief. And Loan and I, together with Uma, who's not here today with us because she's in India, we're part of a trio that's called the International Grief Council. The website is theinternationalgriefcouncil.org. And we talk with people who want to know more about continuing relationships with their loved ones on the other side, about overcoming grief, about how to deal with grief. And we try to give as many tools from our three very different experiences. And personally, as myself, I write. I try to give tools through writing, nonfiction, and the first novel that's coming out tomorrow is called Recognitions, and it's about recognizing people from your past lives and their role in your current life. And my website, DanielaNorris.com. Thank you so much for having me with you.
You're
today.
so welcome, Daniela. And would you be able to say the name of your book again one more time? It was a little jumbled.
It is called Recognitions.
Recognitions. All right. Wonderful. We'll look forward to that. And Julie. Julie's muted. You're muted, Julie.
I'm unmuted now.
Go. There you go. You're muted back again. I think we...
Dueling muters.
Dueling muters. There she's... Ah, this quirky humanity, she's still muted. Okay, nobody, there we go. Nobody touch. I love it.
Okay.
There you go.
What was the question? The value of...
How would you help us consider some ideas for overcoming fear?
Okay.
How to?
So I've got two different thoughts about that, and they seem like opposites, but I think they're complementary. One is silence, an ability to just be with death, with the dying, with the concept of death. The other is to talk about it. So I think both of those are equally as important as tools. And for some of us, talking then takes the form of writing, communicating. And so I also think singing and music can be another form of communication that's very, very valuable as a tool to becoming less fearful. When in the one instance that I had so much experience with, being with my dad as he was preparing to die, we surrounded him by music with music and song, and he participated. He sang with us and told us if something that was one of our choices wasn't resonating with him, et cetera, et cetera. My one brother is a songwriter, and he was sharing some of his original music, and my father just really enjoyed that. We could tell that it brought him lots of joy and peace, and it helped us as well. So all of those are forms of communication, but I think one of the most important things was just being able to be with him, with whatever was happening, and with myself, and to find my center in the middle of that, and be able to be responsive to him as he wanted it, and to just be okay with sitting quietly when he wasn't into communicating, and it was all okay.
Thank you, Julie.
Wonderful.
Well,
Thank you, Julie.
now that we're at the end of the show, I have finally, here, I've got my party hat on. My app's finally working. I want to give a big, huge shout out to everyone who came, and thank you so much for all your insights. We have missed a few people on. If you haven't shared your website yet, take a minute now and we'll do that, and then we'll give a big woohoo goodbye. So if we haven't missed anyone, put up your hand and we'll call on you just like we're in school.
Yeah.
Did we miss anyone?
We did miss Vlyn, I think, in Loanne.
Vlyn. Go ahead, Vlyn.
Thank you so much. Again, it is such a pleasure to be back on the show with you guys. You know, when I think about death and really standing in the space of eliminating the fear of death, it comes from understanding. It comes out of a sense of wisdom and knowledge and self-acceptance, because one of the things that I do is I teach people about coming into alignment with their money space. And I'm doing a program called Step Into Your Money Flow. And I realized that money and death have the same kind of anxiety for some people. And in that anxiety expression, it's around our mortality. And for me, being in the mortality conversation happens in programs like this, where I can talk about legacy and bring people through a process that shows them the beyond. And, you know, I talk about 100-year goals. And if that doesn't take you past the fear of death because you're totally in it, I don't know what else can. And my website is p3academy.com, where you can find the information about my program, about some of the programs that I offer at the Academy, and how women, especially women, can move through the space of releasing some of these limiting blocks and allow themselves to step into the opportunities of living life more fully. So thanks again. I love you gals. I love the work that you're doing, and I'm so grateful to be able to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you so much, Vlyn.
Yeah, so anyone else out there, did we miss? Put up your hand.
Loanne?
Loanne.
Yes, I'm hopeful. I'm unmuted now. Can you talk? Can you hear me?
Great.
We can.
My website is www.celestialconversations.com. It will get you to my website and any book of any form that you might like of that. But I also want to add, the conversation is the bottom line of what we're talking about. That's the common denominator. And any way you can find conversation, whether it's grief counseling or your religious environment, whatever that is, it does help to have the conversation with safe people. And I think you have set up a beautiful lineup of people who are safe, who would love to be helpful, and I am one of them. If you needed to reach me directly, my email is lamayer, M-A-Y-E-R, @msn.com, and if I can direct you to any of these wonderful ladies, I will do so. Thank you so much, Patty, and I really enjoy you and Misty in your party atmosphere. You have a little Irish.
A death party.
I'm put on a halo for you, Loanne. And I like how when I wiggle my head, it floats with me.
Did we miss anybody else? Rachel, did you get to tell us your website?
Yep. You can find all sorts of stuff at intuitiveart.com.
Wonderful. And we did get yours too, Margarita. I know we kind of started that.
Yeah, my website is thecrystallotus.com.
Absolutely wonderful. And you know that we are the Death Chicks, and what we're excited about is that we're in the presence of fabulous women who are also leaning in. You guys are really leaning in. I love that term, because when we lean in, we maybe listen a little closer, we maybe learn a little bit more, and maybe we can look a little closer as to what is going on. That's a really bad example of using these effects. But I wanted to really magnify.
Whenever you lean in, you can be heard better.
Oh, there.
Great.
That's great, Josie. That's great. Well, I want to invite anybody that can stay for a couple of minutes after the fact. We'll thank you off the air. You can just do nothing and hang in there, but we're going to wrap it up now. I want to say thank you so much, Patty Burgess from doingdeathdifferently.com and Teaching Transitions. Come visit. Misty?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Woohoo! We had our first year anniversary show. We're here. We're going strong. We have some great things lined up. This February is going to be our big question series, and for this we're going to have a small number of panelists, maybe 2 to 5 for every big question. Send in your questions, please. We are the Death Chick Show, and we are trying to get up to 200 followers on Google+. If you haven't followed us, please help us reach this goal. And we're trying to get our word out, so we're playing with hashtag Death Chick Show. So if you're sharing us, hashtag Death Chick Show, please help us out that way. Follow us. I'd also like to say quick regrets. We were planning to have Stephen Garrett of EmbraceDeath.com. I hope I have that right. If not, it's close.
Embrace Your Death?
Thank you. He was going to join us today, and he couldn't. And then also Nina Thompson of the Wake Up to Dying Project was going to be here today, and she was unable to make it at the last minute. However, we still had this absolutely wonderful full panel. We wouldn't have been able to take any more had they shown up, but I would have figured it out. I would have got them in somehow. These two might be on our upcoming shows in February. Thank you, everyone here. We are so blessed to have wonderful women like you supporting us. And for all the viewers, thank you so much for opening your hearts and your minds up to this topic. And we guarantee you, keep watching us and it's going to get easier. And when it comes your time, you're going to be smiling and you're going to be thinking, thanks, Death Chicks.
Thanks, Death Chicks. Take care.